2020, of course, everyone knows that that's approximately when COVID came and everything shut down. As I said in my previous video, the gym shut down and my hair salon shut down. The major one for me was the gym shutting down, because the gym was, which I did not realize was like a coping mechanism for many things. In the community with the gym, it was just really just great, I guess, therapy for me or whatever else, and kept me in a routine of things even when I was not prepping for a show. I just had a routine. So when that was gone, things kind of like went awry, on top of the fact that, you know, COVID was happening and I was working at a hospital because I'm an essential employee, and all of us were seeing deaths like we've never seen before. It was just like really overwhelming to see so much happening at that time. On top of the fact that everything was just unknown. Like we didn't know. It was almost like every single day the requirements as far as PPE, personal protective equipment, was changing. How we use personal protective equipment was changing according to what we've always been trained on, because pretty much there was a shortage of it. So where we would normally, like before COVID, when I had an N95, I would literally just, and most of the time usually when I used the N95 before that time frame was like if you thought somebody had TB or something like that, some kind of other precaution. So you would wear N95 and you would use it and then toss it, because you really didn't use it a whole lot. Didn't use it a whole lot at all. But at that point, we were using it all the time, pretty much for everyone, because at one point, the whole hospital, except for like one floor, was precautions for COVID. Like multiple. Like we have 3 actual units, 3 actual floors. 2 of them were all COVID, and then there was one that actually had patients that were not COVID. So that was going on during that time frame. As far as since I wasn't going to the gym to cope, I started eating, and as far as stress eating. So at the beginning of everything, I was like around between 170, 180. That's where my walking around weight normally is. My last show that I did, I was actually at like 130, which is like the lowest I've been like forever, and was entirely too small. So all that was going on. With me overeating, my weight ended up getting up to 250. It got up to 250. So then other things started. So not only did I gain the weight, but then other things started happening. First thing started happening is I'm not a snorer. Not a snorer at all. I started snoring. What else? My menstrual cycle, which I said before in the previous video, foreshadowing, was just off the chain. Because I said, because I had been dieting off and on, I wasn't really getting like a steady, ongoing menstrual cycle. So my menstrual cycle started becoming just crazy, and crazy to a point where I'm a 7-day person, 7 days. But for like the first 3 days, it was just like heavy. Like when I say heavy, like I would have to change something every hour at that point, because it was just that heavy. And at one point they before, like a while back, I had the issue, and the doctor put me on, like, they were like, oh, well, we can put you on a birth control. No, that's a lie. When it was going on, that's a lie. When it was going on, that's a lie. It wasn't before that. It was like around, all this is like a blur. When I had gained the weight, I went to the doctor and they said, well, we can put you on a birth control. But at the time, my weight had increased, I'm snoring, and my blood pressure increased, which I've never had high blood pressure. My blood pressure has actually usually been low. So the doctor put me on a low hormone, some kind of certain birth control where it doesn't really affect your blood pressure all that much or whatever else. However, it wasn't working the way it was supposed to work. It's supposed to be like, traditional birth control. You're not on your cycle during the certain point in time when you're taking the hormones. When there's no hormones, that's when you come on your cycle. My stuff became unpredictable. Like, I don't know what. I was having my cycle during the time I wasn't taking the hormone pills, and it was just like surprise, when you come, here I am. Because more than anything, when I am on my cycle and everything's running that way, as far as the 7 days or whatever else, I can predict it. This became unpredictable. So in my head, I was looking like, bump this. I don't like the unpredictability. I'd rather deal with the predictability that I know that I'm going to be like heavy menstrual cycle for 3 days, and I'll just have to deal with it, and then the other days I'm coasting. So that's what I decided to do. So I stopped taking the pills. So also during this time frame, because of everything going on, I just wasn't feeling like myself at all mentally. I started seeing a therapist because I'm looking like all this stuff is going on. I'm not feeling great. And mind you, this is over like a 2-year time frame. I'm not feeling great or whatever else. So let me go start seeing therapy. So I start with a therapist, telehealth, online. So I'm talking to her, and she's talking about, certain things to work through as far as to deal with anxiety and everything else, dealing with the situations that are going on and all the other stuff. And at one point while I'm talking to her, she goes, have you ever been tested for ADHD? I was like, no. No, I have not. So she was like, yeah, you might want to go about getting tested for that. I'm like, okay. So I went and got tested for ADHD. So, and I guess just from her talking to me, she was like, yeah, because for the most part, and like with this, I have like written out, because I tried to do this freely without writing out what I'm going to talk about, and I was all over the damn place, in which I am still all over the place. But when normally talking to me, I will be all over the place. I will start a sentence or whatever else, and then move on to the next subject, and people are looking like, so like you never finished your other thought, when in my head I finished the other thought. There was just so many different signs of it or whatever else, but that's just like one of them. But there was like a lot of signs of it, which I now know, but I didn't know back then. So I went and got tested. The testing that I did, along with therapy and talking to the doctor and everything else, which also helps with the diagnosis, was some kind of computer thing or whatever, where you had to hit a button when you saw like a certain color or whatever else, and then it would blink a different color, and then it would see as far as how much you're paying attention to whatever's going on, if your mind pretty much just floats somewhere else. And then at one point they were doing visual and audio. It was a whole bunch going on. When I left that darn thing, I had a migraine. And so when it came back to the testing, they were like, yeah, it shows signs that you do, which was new to me, because at this point I am older. So I'm looking like I've lived all my life. And there was like certain clues, like when I was younger, or even going through things, I was like, there were certain clues. Now I'm looking like, aha. But back then, I didn't think of anything. Even some certain things that when I didn't do certain things, I was like, I'm just lazy. I would just call myself lazy all the time, and it really wasn't the fact that I was lazy. Because sometimes, like, when I have a whole lot to do, and it's like an all or nothing kind of thing, I will just shut down and not do anything at all. So I've learned over time that I just need to do one little bit at a time, and not try to try to get out that all or nothing kind of thing. But I got diagnosed. So at that point, I was put on medication for ADHD. My first medication was Adderall. So I was on Adderall or whatever else. And I was on that for a little. I was only on for a little bit because at that point, because of cost things, I changed my doctor and everything, and changed the therapist because they were part of the same organization. So I went to a new doctor, and the new doctor did not believe in giving stimulant medication. So I went on a non-stimulant medication with a new therapist. Well, the non-stim medication wasn't doing diddly squat for me. It was like not doing anything or whatever else. Even though they kept trying to increase the dose, it wasn't doing anything. So I went. My family doctor already knew that I was on medication before. So our family doctor doesn't really prescribe, like here, I don't know about other places, but our family doctor really doesn't subscribe like stimulants long term or pain medication like that. You have to go to a specialist. So he did give me like Adderall for a certain time frame, but he also did find me a doctor that does prescribe stimulant medication and give you what you need as far as for ADHD. So between my family doctor and my now psychiatrist, which I love my psychiatrist so much. So when I first started going with her, my weight was still high. And my blood pressure was high, and my doctor was checking me for sleep apnea. There's a whole lot going on. So I go to my psychiatrist. She's like, your blood pressure's high. She's like, you cannot go on a medication because your blood pressure's high. She was like, it's entirely too high. She's like, it's high enough where she was like, I really want to just send you oops, I was shaking. She was like, it's high enough where I really just want to send you to the hospital because it's that high. It's like really, really bad. Plus your weight. So I'm like, okay. So she took me off of everything. Fun time. So she took me off of everything. Anything that I had. Because at this point I was on Wellbutrin, which is also used for ADHD, and the Adderall. The Wellbutrin, they're giving me the Wellbutrin so that so I can take a lower dose of Adderall and not have a higher dose. So she took me off of everything, and she was like, you need to get your blood pressure under control. I'm like, okay. So I went to my doctor, and I was like, I need to get my blood pressure under control. So he was like, all right. So he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I know what it is. I need to lose weight. So he was like, okay. So he put me on blood pressure medication. And at that point in time, he was like, you want to go on Wegovy? I was looking like, okay. Anything that helps. So I was like, okay. So I went on Wegovy. So I started Wegovy, did my blood pressure medication, seeing my psychiatrist where she's checking me out, making sure my blood pressure is going down or whatever else. And she did leave me. She did put me back on the Wellbutrin. However, the Wellbutrin, she only has me doing instant, so that if I don't do it any extended medication, so that if she wants to pull me off of it, she can just pull me off of it, and that's only going to be around for a certain time frame versus extended release lasts longer. So I'm doing that back and forth. So the Wegovy's working. My weight went from like approximately 250 down to like around, I got down to like the high 80s, like 187, something like that. So it was working great. So my blood pressure's getting better. My weight's getting better. I'm going to therapy for the ADHD. My doctor decided to put me on ADHD. She did put me on another medication. So now I'm on Wellbutrin and Focalin, which is a medication that I've never been on. It's not amphetamine. It's a stimulant, similar from what I read, because I do lots of research on my medication. I just don't be taking anything. She put me on Focalin. all instant release. So now I'm on Wellbutrin, Focalin. I'm on all the medications. Buspar for anxiety and irritability, because Wellbutrin can make you irritable and cause anxiety, which I've heard lots of people say it just messed them all up. So I'm on these 3 medications plus my blood pressure medication. We're doing great for someone who's never been on medication. Plus we're taking Wegovy. So I go for a checkup with my family doctor and I get blood work done. I get blood work done because I've been so tired. And I'm looking like, what is wrong with me? Why am I so tired? So I go to my family doctor and it comes back that my hemoglobin's low. Part of my blood count. It's probably low because of my menstrual cycle. Which is still with all this going on, I'm still having this menstrual cycle, which is heavy for the first 3 days or whatever else, and then whatever, it still lasts for like 7 days. So he was like, your everything's low. I'm looking like, okay. So now I'm on my way to the gynecologist. You see what the heck is going on? Why am I having these issues? So in the meantime, while I'm going to the gynecologist and trying to get that situated, I've started iron therapy, iron infusions, because my stuff is low. My iron levels were just all jacked up. My blood count was low. This is why I'm tired. So that's what's going on. So I'm getting iron infusions and everything else. So I go to my gynecologist, and they were like, yeah, you have fibroids, which I knew before. I have fibroids before. Well, you have fibroids and it's causing all these issues and all this other stuff. You're going to need surgery. So my doctor walked me through everything. It's like, gave me all these options of what I could do. What we came to the point of, mainly because of my age, and I'm all for it, was I'm going to get a hysterectomy. So I got a hysterectomy. With the hysterectomy, however, I did keep my ovaries, because ovaries are very important, because even though you get your uterus and everything else removed, you can keep your ovaries, because my ovaries are still making hormones. So I get a hysterectomy. Great going, everything. Living life. Everything's great. So now literally it's taking a village to put me back together. So now I'm on Wegovy. Well, I had to come off the Wegovy for the surgery. So, but I'm still seeing my family doctor. I'm still seeing my psychiatrist. I'm still seeing my therapist and my gynecologist now. So I have the hysterectomy, robotic, which was wonderful, and everything was great. So I went back on the Wegovy for a little bit. So then I came off of the Wegovy because I just didn't want to stay on it. I wanted to see how I was eating wise without it. So she's excited.